So visions and dreams are there's a real contention for them. I have found not only with myself, but in all the places that I have ministered at, there's a real battle over this arena. Now, let me tell you something that happened to me and how I learned this. I was watching the evening news, and this was years ago. This was after my son was born, but before my daughter was born. My son is presently 20 years old. My daughter is now 14. And I was watching the evening news, specifically a journalist, and her name was Christiane Amanpour. You may know of her, maybe not. But as I watched her on television, this particular reporter, I suddenly entered into a vision by the Holy Spirit. Now, when do visions happen? Typically when we're awake, okay? Sometimes during that window that I explained when we are, asleep, half awake, half asleep. But I was awake and I entered in a vision by the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit began to speak to me about my next child. Remember, I just had my son at that time, not my daughter. He began to speak to me about my next child. And as, he was speaking to me, I watched this lady's name morph from Christiane to Christiana. Okay. And I watched the whole thing morph. And then, I actually had incorrectly presumed by her accent that she was British, but it turned out she wasn't British. She was actually from Iran, actually from the same city that my husband was birthed in. And in an abstract way, that was a confirmation of what the Holy Spirit was speaking to me. Okay. And so he was telling me that, I was going to have a girl and her name was going to be Christiana. And so, what's interesting is, number one, I can't have children. I'm physically unable to have children, but I also had the same experience with my son. And, same situation. A few years before he was born, I saw this little boy running around my house, and it was in a vision, and I knew his name was David. And then about a year later, I actually became pregnant. I went, when I did the sonogram where they tell you, what is the gender of the baby, the doctor says, well, what are the names that you have chosen for your child, if it's a boy or a girl? I said, well, my son, I said, it's a boy and his name is David. He says, well, you don't have a name for a girl. I said, no, I don't have a name for a girl because it's a boy and his name is David, because I already knew, I saw it in a vision. All right. And so obviously David came. And then I had this again with Christiana. I knew it was a girl and her name is Christiana. And then Christiana came.